What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel, thanks for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to be looking at why I use Clay instead of Make.com for cold email and how you can set it up as quickly as possible. Now, when most people start building automated cold email systems, they reach for the usual suspects, which is Make.com and N8N. Now, they look impressive in screenshots and have loads of integrations, and they feel like the right tool, but they're not the right tool for cold email lead prep at scale. But Clay is. And the difference is the distinction between a 30-minute campaign setup and a 4-hour nightmare of debugging modules you can't even see inside of. Now, this doc covers exactly why Clay beats Make.com and N8N for cold email lead enrichment, how to set up the Clay workflow from scratch, and how to get a campaign-ready lead list out in under 20 minutes. Now, if you're new here, my name is Dominic Schwantes. I'm the founder of Workflows, a B2B AI lead generation agency. I document everything I do in real time, the campaigns, the systems, and the results. And what you'll find in this document is based on what actually works, not just some theory. So let's actually have a look at why not Make.com or N8N. Now, both are capable automation platforms, don't get me wrong, and most of them work for most use cases, but cold email lead prep at volume is not one of them, and the core problem is visibility. Now, in Make.com, your workflow is a series of connected modules. When something goes wrong with a specific contact, you click into each individual module, scroll through the outputs to find the problem. Now, at 500 contacts, it's pretty painful, but at 2,000 plus, it's basically impractical. Now, Clay is a spreadsheet. Now, for every row, it's a contact, and for every column is a step. You can see exactly what happened to every contact at every step at a glance without clicking into anything. Now, when a verification fails for one email, you see it immediately inside of the zero bounce column. When a personalization line looks wrong, you see it in the Claude column and you fix it without affecting anything else. Now, anybody doing cold email at serious volume uses Clay, and the visibility advantage is not marginal, and it's the reason why the workflow is manageable. Now, if you look, just to prove this point, this is one of the first automations I ever built on my Upwork profiles where I pulled this from. Now, this was a content creation automation that I built for a client. And if you see how many individual lines, so this is for each individual piece of content that was being created. So there was 5 being produced in total. And think about how many problems I had to click through for each individual module across all of these 5 lines. Absolute headache. Now, let's have a look at what Clay does in the cold email workflow. So Clay sits between the lead source and Smart Lead. It takes the raw CSV of contacts that you would have gotten from Boomerang if you're smart and not paid for Apollo pricing, and runs through each enrichment and verification, produces a clean, verified, and personalized list. Now, the email verification is done via Zero Bounce, which checks every email, and only valid emails make it through to the export. For the company data enrichment, the Clay scrapes each individual company website and produces a summary of what the business does. And for the AI personalization, you can either use Claude or OpenAI, completely up to you, if I can write with a mouse. Now, for each contact, the AI will generate a first-line personalization based on the company summary. And in terms of the filtering, the Clay removes any contact where the email is not valid or critical data is missing. So you find that up the top left, and you just add that column wherever your output is, and only allow valid emails to be shown. Now, for the export, it's very simple. You just go into the right column all the way to the end, and you just export it as a CSV ready to drop into Smartly. Now, let's go through some of the basics step by step. So obviously go to clay.com and create an account. Clay does have a free tier to test the workflow, but it's fairly limited. And the paid plans are priced based on the credits used when each enrichment action consumes a number set of credits. Now, for an agency running campaigns regularly, the growth plan or above is probably appropriate. So these are the 2 pricing models that Clay is currently going by for a limited time. Now, this is the old pricing, or the, what do they call it? The legacy pricing, I think. And this will disappear on April 10th. So you only have a limited time to use this final pricing. And this is the new pricing down the bottom here that they've implemented. Personally, I like the upper pricing just because there is a lower entry point for you guys starting out with not a lot of money. But this is what they will be going to. So instead of starting at $150 a month, they'll be starting at $185, which isn't much. But the key difference is, if you see the drop down here, this gives you options for 2,000 credits and 3,000. But down here, it goes from 2,500 all the way to 6,000. So if you don't want to use all the 6,000, it may be a problem just going forward, just so you know. Now, obviously, once you've logged into Clay, you want to create a new table. Make sure you give it a descriptive name reflecting the campaign. So, for example, Landscaping AU April 2026. The table is where all the lead data lives and gets processed. Think of it as a smart spreadsheet where each column connects to an external data source or AI model. Then you want to import that export CSV, whether you got it from Apify or Boomerang, and Clay displays the columns and asks you to map them. So first name obviously goes to first name. And the main ones you need are the first name, last name, email, company name, job title, LinkedIn URL, website URL, and the other main ones you want, particularly for cold email, is I prefer state, you don't really need country. Actually, yes, you do. In my cold email template, you will need these extra two because actually I won't explain it. Just go back and watch the other video. Now, check the email column is mapped correctly. Now, this is the most critical field for everything that follows below. Then you want to add the zero bounce verification column. Just click plus and add a new column next to it. Just search for zero bounce in the integration library and you'll map it. Now, the reason why we need the email column is because you need to make sure that when you click slash, actually, I'll just show you. When you click slash in the column, once you've added the zero bounce, it'll get you to map the column where the email is being verified from. So you'll go backslash, which is next to the shift on the bottom right of your keyboard, and you'll just want to map whatever the name of your email column is. Then you'll need your zero bounce API key, which is very simple to paste into Clay, and then you'll configure it to return all of the valid email addresses, and you'll want to ignore the invalid, catch-all, or unknown. For those of you who don't know what catch-all is, it basically just means that any email gets sent to the domain is where the inbox is. So at apple.com, whether or not you have Alex, Annie at apple.com, they all go into that one inbox, and that tanks deliverability because usually no one responds to that. Now that column runs automatically for every single row, which you just double click up the top on the column and just click run all. Now, step 5 is adding the website scrape column. So you can add this column to map to the URL, which you should have in the domain column from the CSV that you got exported into clay.com. Then configure the scrape to pull the homepage content and return a short summary. 2 to 3 sentences is more than sufficient to capture the core business activity. And if the contact doesn't have a website, just the scrape will return as empty. Now, I would search and remove any company that doesn't have a URL because that's pretty unusual and they're probably dodgy if they don't have that. Now, step 6 is to add the Claude / OpenAI column. I'm just adding that for people who don't want to pay for Claude pricing. You can use OpenAI as well. So add a new column, search for Claude or Anthropic in the integration library. You will need an API key whether you go into OpenAI or Anthropic. If you want to know how to add those API keys, go back to early in the channel. It was my first 5 or so videos. I showed you how to add your Anthropic and OpenAI API key into Clay. Now, a prompt you could use is something like this. You are writing the opening line of a cold email to a business owner. Here is a brief description of their business, and this is where you want to link the company summary. So again, you'll want to click the slash and map the column directly. Write one sentence that acknowledges what their company does and creates a natural reason to reach out. Can't draw an arrow. That's going to bug me. Now, keep it under 20 words. Keep it in conversational tone and no corporate jargon. The amount of people that write emails that start off with, I hope you're well, and people just know you're full of crap, just don't do that. Now, Clay will substitute the actual company summary for each row, and the output is a unique personalized first line for each individual contact. Now, step number 7 is adding the filters. So before you export it, add a filter that removes any row where zero bounce returns not valid, or what was the other ones we just said? I'm just having a blank. Where is it? Invalid and catch-all as well. You don't want any of those. Now, click filter and set. Zero bounce status is valid, and then update. The table will then update straight away to show you the only ones that have passed. Now, the row count after filtering is the number of verified contacts available for the campaign. Now, step number 8 is running the workflow. So after you've done all that, click run all, and it will execute the full enrichment workflow, and you can literally just leave it now until it's done everything, unless you've run out of credits, in which case it'll stop and tell you. Now, Clay processes each step in parallel. The zero bounce verification, the website scrape, and the Claude personalization will all run simultaneously. For about 600 to 700 contacts, the full run can take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. While the workflow runs, you can go and write the cold email copy in a separate tab, and by the time your copy is done, the list will be ready. Step 9 is exporting the verified list. Just go up to the top right and scroll all the way to the far right. It'll be the 4th one across usually, and just export that CSV. Review a sample of the personalization lines though before you do that to make sure they all read naturally, and then you should be good to go ahead and export all of that and drop it into Smartly. Now let's go over some common Clay mistakes. So not checking that the column mapping is on the import. I've done this the first couple of times. I've had to delete all of them and re-add them just because I forgot to map like the domain column or the title column. Now, if the email column is wrong, the zero bounce verifies the wrong data, in which case you've just wasted a whole bunch of credits. Running the Claude or OpenAI column across the full tab without testing it first is another big common problem. Test a couple of rows first, or Clay will actually give you the ability to run the first 10 first just to check that the output is correct before you run the whole 500 plus, however many contacts you have. The next common problem is forgetting to set the filter before exporting. Without the zero bounce filter, invalid emails will end up in smart lead and absolutely tank your sender reputation. And last but not least, using too many enrichment steps. Now the workflow needs 5 to 6 columns for the imported data, so zero bounce, scraped, claw personalization, and the filters. Adding 10 more columns produces complexity without benefit. Now let's have a look at the full Clay column structure. So first name, last name, email address, company name, job title, website URL. Pretty self-explanatory. Then the other three you're going to want to have is the zero bounce status, the company name, and the personalization line. Now in reality, you only need to export columns 1 through 6 plus column 9 to get all of the valid emails out. Now what this means for you, if you are using Make.com or N8M for cold email lead prep, the time to switch is now to Clay. Now that time pays back within the first campaign through faster debugging and cleaner visibility, and it will compound in the future. If you are starting fresh, start with Clay. Build one workflow first just to check it's all running smoothly, and then run it for every single campaign. The consistency and visibility it provides are worth way more than the flexibility of a general purpose automation tool that was not built for this specific use case. So that's all I have for you today. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any new videos on the channel. If you have a video you'd like me to cover in the future, make sure you leave it in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's video.